Dr. Klix Vorthak adjusted his third eye stalk for the 100th time that morning, peering at the holographic display floating above his cluttered desk. The crimson warning symbols blinked ominously around a small section of the galaxy map, marking what every civilized being in the universe knew as the human quarantine zone. "Absolutely fascinating," Klix muttered, his translator box crackling with static. His colleagues at the Zentorian Institute of Xenobiology had grown tired of his obsession months ago, but Klix couldn't help himself. While every other species in the galactic community cowered at the mere mention of humans, he saw them as the ultimate research opportunity. The official records were sparse but terrifying. Humans were described as ruthlessly efficient killers who had somehow managed to wipe out entire civilizations without leaving their own solar system. The Galactic Council had unanimously voted to quarantine human space after what historians only referred to as the incident. No one talked about what actually happened during the incident, which made it even more intriguing to Klix. "Still reading those human files, Vorthak?" Dr. Nexus Blorbington slithered into the lab, his gelatinous form rippling with disapproval. "You know the Council explicitly forbids research into those monsters." Klix's eye stalk swiveled toward his colleague. "That's exactly why we should be studying them. Think about it, Blorbington. Entire species so dangerous that the combined might of 17 different galactic civilizations decided it was safer to just pretend they don't exist. The scientific implications are staggering." "The safety implications are more staggering," Blorbington replied, his voice modulator squeaking with anxiety. "Remember what happened to the Regellian trade delegation that accidentally wandered into human space? They came back speaking something called corporate jargon and trying to sell everyone extended warranties on their starships." Klix waved a dismissive tentacle. "Anecdotal evidence at best. We need proper scientific observation, direct contact, field research." Blorbington's entire body turned a sickly shade of green. "You're not seriously considering." "I've already modified my research vessel," Klix announced proudly. "Stealth generators, emergency beacon scramblers, and enough rations for a month-long observation mission. I launch tomorrow." The other scientist made a sound that the translator rendered as horrified gurgling. "Vorthak, this is madness. Humans are the most dangerous predators in known space. They're cunning, brutal, and apparently capable of psychological warfare so advanced that it can corrupt other species just through casual contact." Klix's enthusiasm only grew. "Exactly. Imagine the research papers I could publish. Direct observation of Homo sapiens in their natural habitat, a xenobiological analysis. I'd be the most famous scientist in the galaxy." "You'd be the most dead scientist in the galaxy," Blorbington corrected. "The Council will never approve this." "Which is why I'm not asking for approval," Klix said with what his species considered a grin, though it looked more like a grimace to most other aliens. "Sometimes science requires taking risks that bureaucrats can't understand." As Blorbington oozed away in defeat, Klix returned to his preparations. His ship, the Cautious Inquiry, was packed with recording equipment, defensive systems, and enough scientific instruments to analyze everything from atmospheric composition to behavioral patterns. He'd spent weeks studying the limited intelligence available on human society, preparing for every possible scenario from immediate warfare to complex negotiations. What he hadn't prepared for, of course, was the truth. 3 days later, Klix found himself at the edge of human space, his ship's sensors carefully probing the invisible boundary that separated civilization from chaos. His hands trembled as he engaged the stealth systems, fully expecting to be vaporized by some unimaginably sophisticated human defense grid the moment he crossed the line. Instead, his sensors detected elevator music. "That can't be right," Klix muttered, checking his equipment twice. But there it was, broadcasting on multiple frequencies, a slow, jazzy rendition of something his computer identified as Girl from Ipanema. Not exactly the war drums he'd been expecting. His ship's AI, programmed with every known fact about human aggression, seemed equally confused. "Warning, detecting anomalous audio patterns, possible psychological warfare frequency. Recommend immediate retreat." "Nonsense," Klix replied, though his confidence was wavering. It's probably some kind of trap. Humans are known for their deceptive tactics. He crept deeper into human space, his sensors on maximum alert for the slightest sign of hostile activity. According to his research, humans were pack hunters who attacked in coordinated swarms, using advanced technology to overwhelm their enemies with superior firepower and tactical cunning. What he found instead was a massive cruise ship painted in cheerful pastels, with cosmic getaways, your universe of fun emblazoned across its hull in letters the size of small asteroids. Klix stared at the display in bewilderment. This wasn't matching any of his intelligence reports. Where were the battle cruisers? The weapon platforms? The ominous silence of a species plotting galactic domination. His comm system crackled to life. Well, hello there, little fella. This is Captain Buck Morrison aboard the Starlight Express, and welcome to the Sol System. You look like you might be lost. First time visiting Earth? Klix's 3 hearts nearly stopped beating. Direct contact with a human. This was it. The moment that would either make his career or end his life. He fumbled for his translation protocols, trying to remember everything he'd learned about human communication patterns. That is, greetings, human, he managed to stammer. I am Dr. Klix Vorthak of the Zentorian Institute of Xenobiology. I come in peace for scientific observation purposes. There was a pause, followed by what sounded suspiciously like laughter. Scientific observation? That's fantastic. We love science tourists. Tell you what, Doc, why don't you swing by our ship? We've got a full presentation on Earth's greatest achievements, plus complimentary drinks and snacks. No charge for first-time visitors. Klix's eye stalks swiveled frantically. This had to be some kind of trap. Humans were notorious for their cunning. They were probably luring him aboard their vessel to interrogate him, or worse, subject him to whatever horrible process had corrupted the Rigelian delegation. I appreciate the offer, Klix replied carefully, but I prefer to maintain a safe distance for initial observations. Safe distance? Captain Morrison's voice carried a tone of genuine confusion. From what? Doc, the only thing dangerous around here is our all-you-can-eat buffer. Trust me, the artificial gravity can't handle more than 3 trips to the desert station. This was definitely not going according to any of Klix's research. Where was the immediate aggression? The territorial posturing? The threatening displays of superior weaponry? Instead, he was getting what appeared to be a dinner invitation. Perhaps, Klix said slowly, I could briefly visit your vessel. For scientific purposes only, you understand. Absolutely. Dock at Bay 7. I'll have someone from guest relations meet you at the airlock. Oh, and Doc? You might want to bring a camera. The view of Earth from our observation deck is absolutely spectacular. As Klix maneuvered his ship toward the docking bay, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to become the subject of his own case study. The last thing he heard before cutting the comm link was Captain Morrison humming along to the elevator music. The airlock cycled open, and Klix found himself face to face with his first human. She was a middle-aged woman with an impossibly wide smile and a name tag that read, Hi. I'm Brenda. Ask me about our Mars package deals. Dr. Vorthak. Brenda exclaimed, clapping her hands together in what Klix's research suggested was either a greeting ritual or preparation for unarmed combat. Welcome aboard the Starlight Express. We're so excited to have our first Centaurian guest. Would you like a complimentary welcome drink? We have 17 different flavors of tang. Klix's translator struggled with the word tang, eventually settling on exotic human beverage, possibly fermented. This could be some kind of ceremonial poison, he realized. A test of his worthiness, or perhaps the first stage of whatever process had corrupted other alien visitors. Yes, thank you, he replied, figuring that accepting the offering might delay whatever horrible fate awaited him. Brenda led him through corridors that defied every expectation he'd had about human architecture. Instead of stark military functionality or intimidating displays of power, everything was decorated in soothing earth tones with motivational posters featuring kittens hanging from tree branches. So what brings you to our little corner of the galaxy? Brenda asked as they walked. Business or pleasure? Research, Klix replied cautiously. I'm studying human behavioral patterns. Oh, how wonderful. You picked the perfect time to visit. We're just finishing up our Best of Earth tour package. You'll get to see all of humanity's greatest achievements, the Mall of America, competitive eating championships, and our crown jewel, a live taping of Real Housewives of Jupiter Colony. Klix's eye stalks drooped in confusion. These didn't sound like military installations or weapons facilities. Are these strategic locations? Brenda laughed, a sound that his research had identified as either expression of joy or preparation for attack. Strategic? I suppose you could say that. The Mall of America is definitely strategic if you're trying to find the perfect pair of shoes. They emerged onto an observation deck where dozens of humans were milling about, pointing at the blue-green planet visible through the massive transparent steel windows. None of them appeared to be armed, unless you counted the various shopping bags they were carrying. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Morrison's voice boomed over the intercom. We're now approaching Earth's primary shopping district, also known as North America. On your left, you'll see the legendary Black Friday battlefields where humans once engaged in ritualistic combat over discounted electronics. Klix perked up. Finally, some mention of human warfare. These days, the captain continued, we've moved those battles online, which is much safer and allows for better inventory management. No more trampling incidents, and customer satisfaction is up 30%. They ended their wars for better inventory management, Klix whispered to himself. Brenda overheard him. Oh, we didn't end wars, honey. We just turned them into entertainment, much more profitable that way. Have you ever seen a competitive eating contest? It's got all the drama of ancient warfare, but with hot dogs instead of casualties. As if on cue, the ship's entertainment system activated, displaying a massive screen showing two humans attempting to consume alarming quantities of processed meat products while a crowd cheered enthusiastically. Klix watched in fascination as the competitors battled not with weapons, but with jaw strength and stomach capacity. The crowd's bloodthirsty cheers were replaced by encouraging chants about personal records and sponsorship deals. This is how humans channel their aggressive instincts, he asked. One of the ways, Brenda replied proudly. We've also got professional wrestling, reality television, and customer service jobs. Nothing builds character like dealing with a Karen who wants to return a clearly used product without a receipt. The translator had no idea what to do with Karen and simply left it untranslated, but Klix got the general impression that it was some kind of formidable opponent. As the tour continued, Klix began to realize that everything the galactic community thought they knew about humans was completely wrong. These weren't savage warriors bent on universal conquest. They were aggressive entrepreneurs bent on universal customer satisfaction, which, he was beginning to suspect, might actually be more dangerous. The next few hours aboard the Starlight Express completely shattered every preconception Klix had about human civilization. Captain Morrison, it turned out, was a former military officer who transitioned into what he cheerfully called the hospitality industrial complex. Used to command a destroyer, Morrison explained as he led Klix through what appeared to be a museum dedicated to human conflict resolution. But then I realized we could make a lot more money showing people a good time than blowing them up. Same strategic thinking, better profit margins. The museum walls were lined with displays showing the evolution of human warfare. Ancient battles with swords and shields gradually gave way to more sophisticated conflicts, and then, surprisingly, to organized competitions with rules, referees, and concession stands. This is fascinating, Klix said, studying a display about something called the Cola Wars. Two competing factions engaged in decades of strategic marketing campaigns instead of actual combat? Exactly. Much more civilized, and nobody had to clean up battlefields afterward. Plus, we got some great commercials out of it. Want to see the Pepsi challenge? Before Klix could respond, he was handed two identical-looking cups of brown liquid and asked to choose his preference. The simple act somehow felt more consequential than any military engagement he'd studied. I prefer the second one, he ventured. Morrison grinned. Congratulations, you've just participated in one of humanity's longest-running strategic conflicts. That was Coke, by the way. Pepsi will be devastated. They continued through the museum, past displays showing competitive eating records, esports tournaments that rivaled ancient gladiatorial games, and something called Black Friday footage that had to be kept behind a warning barrier due to its intensity. The real breakthrough, Morrison explained, came when we figured out how to monetize everything. Why have a war when you can have a pay-per-view event? Why destroy your enemies when you can sell them extended warranties? That's when Klix met Jenny Wilkins. Jenny was a small, elderly human woman with silver hair and a sweater covered in cats. She was also, according to her bio display, a decorated veteran of the craft store yarn wars and three-time champion of the great grocery coupon campaigns. "Oh, you're studying human conflict resolution?" Jenny asked sweetly when Morrison introduced them. "How delightful. I've been involved in some of our most intense battles." Klix's eye stalks focused intently. Finally, he might get some insight into actual human combat tactics from a veteran warrior. "The Michaels versus Hobby Lobby rivalry of 2019 was particularly brutal," Jenny continued, her voice taking on the tone of someone recounting epic military campaigns. 40% off coupons versus buy two get one free deals. It got so intense that people were crossing state lines to avoid the carnage. "Carnage?" Klix asked hopefully. "Oh yes, dear. Shopping cart collisions, arguments over the last skein of premium wool, and at least 3 documented cases of passive-aggressive comments about someone's crochet technique. We lost good crafters that day." Morrison nodded solemnly. Jenny here single-handedly cornered the market on fall-themed decorative gourds. The competition never recovered. Klix's understanding of human warfare underwent another radical revision. These people had taken their natural aggressive instincts and channeled them into commercial competition so intense that it created its own legends and heroes. "So humans don't actually fight anymore?" he asked. Jenny patted his arm gently. "Oh, sweetie, we fight constantly. We just do it over parking spaces, limited time offers, and who gets the last piece of pizza at office parties. Much more civilized than all that sword-waving nonsense our ancestors got up to." Plus, Morrison added, "Everything's recorded now for social media content. A good public freakout video can go viral and launch someone's influencer career. We've basically turned conflict into a content creation opportunity." Klix was beginning to understand why the galactic community found humans so terrifying. They hadn't eliminated their warrior nature. They'd evolved it into something far more sophisticated and potentially invasive. Instead of conquering through force, they conquered through customer service and competitive pricing. "I think," Klix said slowly, "I'm starting to understand why my people fear yours." Jenny smiled sweetly. "Oh dear, you haven't seen anything yet. Wait until you meet our sales team." The revelation came during what Captain Morrison cheerfully called the hard sell portion of our tour. Klix found himself in a conference room aboard the Starlight Express, facing a presentation screen that proudly displayed Earth, your next vacation destination. "Now, Dr. Vorthak," said the human giving the presentation, a woman named Lisa, who had introduced herself as Director of Intergalactic Marketing Relations. "I know what you're thinking. Can I really afford to miss out on the vacation opportunity of several lifetimes?" And the answer is, you absolutely cannot. Klix wasn't thinking that at all, but somehow found himself nodding along anyway. "Consider the value proposition," Lisa continued, her smile somehow growing even wider. "Where else in the galaxy can you experience authentic human culture, sample our diverse cuisine, and participate in our world-famous shopping experiences? And if you book today, we can offer you a 17% discount on our premium Earth immersion package." "I wasn't really planning to book anything," Klix protested weakly. "I'm here for scientific research." "Research?" Lisa exclaimed as if this was the most brilliant thing she'd ever heard. "Even better. Our research package includes exclusive access to human behavioral studies, behind-the-scenes tours of our major cultural institutions, and a complimentary subscription to our quarterly newsletter, Human Insights, What Makes Us Tick." Before Klix knew what was happening, He was looking at a contract written in 17 different languages, including what appeared to be fluent Centaurian. "How do you know my language?" he asked, his eye stalks swiveling suspiciously. Lisa's smile never wavered. "Oh, we've been preparing for intergalactic tourism for decades, ever since the Great Tupperware Incident of 2387. Klix's three hearts nearly stopped. "You know about the Tupperware incident?" "Know about it? We lived it. One of our sales representatives accidentally wandered into Regellian space and ended up selling food storage containers to their entire diplomatic corps. By the time we realized what had happened, they'd reorganized their entire government around our product distribution system." The pieces suddenly clicked into place in Klix's mind. The quarantine wasn't about human violence. It was about human salesmanship. The galactic community wasn't afraid of being conquered by human armies. They were afraid of being converted into human customers. "The Regellian delegation that visited Earth," Klix said slowly, "they didn't come back corrupted by human brutality. They came back as satisfied customers." Lisa finished brightly. "They couldn't stop talking about our premium warranty programs and customer loyalty rewards. It was actually quite touching, though apparently their families found it concerning." Captain Morrison leaned back in his chair. "That's when the Galactic Council decided to quarantine us. Said we were too aggressively hospitable and posed a threat to traditional patterns of interspecies commerce. Honestly, we took it as a compliment." Klix looked around the room with new eyes. Every human he'd met had been trying to sell him something: vacation packages, food, experiences, even just the idea that Earth was worth visiting. They'd turned their entire civilization into one massive customer service operation. "So the reason everyone fears human space," he said, "is because you're all essentially salespeople?" "The most effective salespeople in the known galaxy," Morrison corrected proudly. "We can sell ice to frost giants, warranties to machines that never break down, and vacation packages to species that don't believe in leisure time. It's a gift." Lisa nodded enthusiastically. "And speaking of gifts, Dr. Vorthak, I notice you haven't signed up for our research package yet. Are you sure I can't interest you in our premium scientific observation plan? It includes a complimentary Earth souvenir and priority booking for future visits." Klix realized with growing horror that despite everything he'd learned, he was actually considering it. The package did sound quite comprehensive, and the 17% discount was rather appealing. "I think," he said carefully, "I need to return to my ship and process this information." "Of course," Lisa beamed. "Take all the time you need. But remember, this special offer expires in 48 hours, and we can only guarantee availability for the next 6 customers who sign up." As Klix hurried back to his ship, his arms full of brochures, welcome packages, and what appeared to be a complimentary Earth travel mug, he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just experienced exactly what the galactic community had been so afraid of. He'd come to study dangerous predators and instead found aggressive hospitality professionals. Somehow that felt even more terrifying. 3 weeks later, Dr. Klix Vorthak stood before the emergency session of the Centaurian Science Council. His presentation materials spread across the conference table like evidence in a criminal trial. His colleagues stared at him with a mixture of horror and fascination as he concluded his report. "And that, esteemed colleagues, is why the galactic community fears human space," Klix announced, gesturing to his display showing Earth's tourism statistics. "They've weaponized customer service." Dr. Blorbington's gelatinous form quivered with anxiety. "Vorthak, please tell me you didn't purchase anything from these humans." Klix's eye stalks drooped slightly. "Well, I may have signed up for their newsletter, and possibly their premium research package. The 17% discount was really quite reasonable, and they threw in a complimentary Earth coffee mug." The council erupted in concerned murmurs. Several members immediately began backing away from Klix, as if his exposure to human marketing techniques might be contagious. "The contamination has begun," whispered Dr. Nexus Flickerwing, the council's xenopsychology expert. "He's already using their sales terminology. Soon he'll be offering us extended warranties on our lab equipment." "Don't be ridiculous," Klix protested. I'm a scientist, not a, though I should mention that Earth's research facilities do offer some excellent collaborative opportunities, and their coffee is surprisingly addictive. The council chamber fell silent except for we. The sound of several members quietly activating their personal communication devices to warn their families about potential human influence. Colleagues. Klix continued, apparently oblivious to their growing alarm. I believe we've been approaching this all wrong. Instead of fearing human expansion, we should be embracing human innovation. Their transformation of warfare into customer service represents an evolutionary leap in civilizational development. He's completely compromised, Blorbington announced sadly. First the Regellians, now one of our own finest minds. Human marketing psychology is clearly more dangerous than we imagined. But Klix wasn't listening. He was too busy organizing his collection of Earth tourism brochures and planning his follow-up research mission. The humans had offered him a deluxe package deal if he brought along colleagues, and he was already mentally composing invitation letters to his fellow xenobiologists. Actually, he said, his voice taking on an unnaturally enthusiastic tone, I've been thinking about establishing a new research exchange program. Centaurian Human Academic Adventures. Explore the universe together. We could offer our colleagues unprecedented access to human culture, and with group discounts for academic institutions. The council members began filing out of the chamber, some covering their hearing organs to avoid further exposure to what they recognized as developing sales pitch syndrome. The quarantine must be maintained, Dr. Blorbington declared as he oozed toward the exit. If word of this gets out, every species in the galaxy will want to study humans. We'll have lines of tourists stretching from here to the Andromeda Galaxy. 6 months later, the first Centaurian tour group departed for Earth aboard the newly christened Cosmic Curiosity, captained by Dr. Klix Vorthak and featuring premium scientific observation packages with complimentary Earth souvenirs. The ship's manifest listed the passengers as researchers, but the Galactic Council knew better. They were the galaxy's first interspecies tourists, and they were heading straight for the most dangerous destination in known space, a planet full of humans eager to show them a good time. As Klix activated his ship's communications array to broadcast Earth's tourism opportunities to 17 different star systems, he reflected on how his simple scientific mission had evolved into something much more significant. He wasn't just studying human behavior anymore, he was actively spreading it throughout the galaxy. The humans, he realized, was something that might have been pride or terror, had successfully recruited their first alien marketing representative. And judging by the enthusiastic responses he was getting from potential customers across 3 different sectors, he was apparently quite good at it. The Galactic Council's worst fears were being realized, one satisfied customer at a time. Somewhere in human space, Captain Morrison was probably updating his sales projections and planning an expansion into the Centaurian market. The universe, Klix thought as he reviewed his passenger manifest for the return trip, was about to become a much friendlier place, whether it wanted to or not.